tell me a little bit about your history before Reviews on the Run. What were you doing back then?
Well, I had a lot of bad jobs before I had this one incredible job, so that's why I appreciate how good a job this is, because I had many, many terrible, painful years. One time I worked as a mall Santa Claus. I worked as a bartender in a terrible restaurant. I was a waiter. I was the worst waiter that Chicago has ever seen. My first night, my first shift, I lied to them and I told them that I've been waiting for years, of course. So like, okay, carry this red wine out to table 7. So I'm walking out like this. It's very hard to carry a tray with a glass of wine because it's very top heavy. I get out there and it's hard for a fake waiter to do it, yes. And so the glass topples over, red wine down this woman's sweater, and I went into the manager. I'm like, listen, I'm not who I said I was. I am an imposter. And he said, you know what, if you're still spilling wine on customers 3 weeks from now, then we'll let you go, but I think you can turn into a good waiter. And I never really did turn into a good waiter. I was terrible. And then at night I would go home and just game until my eyes, I'd pass out from gaming. Loved games. I was playing the Super Nintendo. Back then I was living in Chicago, and the old EGM, Electronic Gaming Monthly, was based in Chicago. I couldn't believe it. There was a magazine in the city I was living in where these guys were playing all these games that I couldn't wait to play. They were playing it down the street from me. And I'm like, how do I get into this business? I'll never get into this business. And I would cry into my pillow and call myself a loser, and nothing good was ever going to happen to me. And then eventually I wound up in New York, and I've always been a writer. So I started writing video game reviews for free for a bunch of different websites. It's easy to do that. There's a million different websites out there. They'll take your reviews, and that's where I cut my teeth. That's where I learned how to write video game reviews. And then I got a job reviewing games for Maxim. And that really opened the door for me. I started getting invited to press events. I started going on we used to call them boondoggles. They're these crazy trips where they'll fly you to Palm Springs so you can look at Earthworm Jim, like something crazy. A stupid waste of money. They don't do them as much anymore.
Did it captivate?
But it captivates, exactly. They're the last one that they do. Yeah. And then I got a call from EA once at the last minute saying, do you want to do this morning TV show in New York? You want to go on and talk about Madden? I hate Madden. It's my least, there's nothing I can say about it anymore, but I couldn't say no, and I went on. I became the video game guy on the local news there in New York City. And then I met Vic at E3 one year. I'm telling you my whole origin story. I don't even know if you want it.
I absolutely want it.
So I met Vic at E3 one year. I had one too many drinks at a THQ party, and I said, I love the electronic playground. And he's like, it's actually the electric playground, but thanks, that's very sweet of you. I said, you're good on that show, but the guy who you do the show with, that guy stinks. You got to get rid of him. And he laughed. He's like, oh yeah, whatever. And then a couple years later, Tommy Tallarico, who he'd always done the show with for a million years, started Video Games Live. And so Tommy got too busy to do the show, and Vic was looking for people to fill in. And he called me. He said, do you want to try this? And he was going to be in New York, and we went to Central Park. We shot like 5 reviews together. We had a great time. And we've been doing it ever since. Like, we got off on the right foot. And I was willing to move to Vancouver. I was willing to leave behind my life in New York and come out here and try and see what it was like to live in the Pacific Northwest and meet some new people. It's like I was an older dude trying to make friends for the first time in a couple of decades. So will you be my friend? I was totally new here, and now I have a life. I have a girlfriend. I have cats. I have a beautiful apartment. I have a great job. So sometimes I wonder, maybe I got run over by a bus and this is heaven. Maybe this might be heaven I'm in right now. Who knows? Now I'm talking to you. This is part of heaven too.
Yeah, there's lights and everything, man.
Is that Jesus?
Yeah, that's right. All right, so what I want to know is, what's the biggest difference between covering games from the position you're in right now versus like when you're at Maxim or when you're doing these free gaming sites?
Well, my perspective on things has changed about 50 million times since I got into this. But at the core, I always feel like my job is to protect the consumer from bad games. I don't ever want anyone to go out and buy a game for $60 or $1 if it's an iPhone game. I don't want anyone to waste even 1 cent. So I'm very protective of the viewers. I'm very protective of the readers who read my stuff. and a game's got to really bring it in order for me to recommend it. So I think in the beginning I was more interested in just telling jokes and being funny about it, and looking down on the industry and looking, like gamers in their basements, and they're just these guys who are losers, and these guys who don't, their hygiene is suspect, and their ponytails, blah blah blah. Like, it was easy to make jokes, and then I realized, like, these people are my people. I can't make fun of them. And in fact, they're way smarter than I am, and they can make fun of me a million times over and destroy me with their incredible jokes. So I've learned, basically, I've just learned that I'm a nerd, like through and through, 100%. I'm a geek. I love this stuff. I've loved it my whole life. And the cynical kind of making fun of gamers and gaming like I got away from that. I don't do that as much anymore, unless somebody really deserves it. And like sometimes Vic deserves it. He goes a little too far. He gets too excited sometimes. I have to calm him down. But no, I just want to. My job is to protect the viewers, protect the readers from bad entertainments, and just have fun along the way. The enthusiasm I have for games, I want the viewers and the readers to feel that as well.